how do you explain, because reflecting on your education, as from West Point on, were you ever trained to say, okay, here are some defensive lines, they are in depth, and were you ever taught to attack those without air cover, air power?
Yeah, effectively we were.
Really?
We were pushed into that at the National Training Center. They would simulate air power. And remember, this is before the precision paradigm really struck.
Yeah.
I mean, this is in the 80s, early 90s. And there was, I remember standing at the National Training Center with a general officer who was actually quite smart. His name was Boyd, Maury Boyd. He was a one-star and artilleryman. And we're watching this unit being decimated by little men with lasers on the side of a hill that is just peppered with boulders. And he looked at this and shook his head. And I saw him shake his head. I said, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, good artillery would turn all of those boulders on the side of the hill into shrapnel. All you have to do is airburst. You kill everybody up there who's got a little shoulder-fired laser that is destroying all the armor that's down in the valley." He said, "Absolutely right." He said, "I just take the top of that hill away." Oh, we don't simulate that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up, I think, imparting a lot of bad lessons to people. And if you impart bad lessons, they tend to be internalized. Go back to 2003 when we went into Iraq. You'll remember this. We suddenly decided, and I mean suddenly, it was really Wallace and Petraeus at the time on the ground. Wallace was the Corps commander. Petraeus had the 101st. Said, well, let's launch a deep attack with attack helicopters against the Iraqis. Well, first of all, why would you do? What are you launching your deep attack against? Well, are you looking for some massive armor concentration? That was never quite clear. Ultimately, what they did is that they decided, we're going to do it. We're going to do it tonight. Let's get everybody going or something. Less than 24 hours, half the one battalion out of the three that were supposed to attack got lost. It was nighttime. They didn't know where they were. The other two battalions end up flying over Najaf, where they see all these lights, and they park in the air. And so the Iraqi Arabs come out with their weapons and start shooting all the helicopters that are in the air. Well, the question was, what are they looking for? They were looking for something they'd seen in a war game, something they'd been taught at the NTC, exactly what you were saying.
Yeah.
Well, the second or third echelon, we want to get at them. These are Iraqis.
Yeah.
It's the Soviet army. So what the hell do you think you're actually doing? Nobody paid attention to it except to say, this is really bad. I guess they had a couple of aircraft shot down, but all of the aircraft were out of the action after that. They'd taken so much damage from small arms fire, they couldn't be used. Well, if you were realistic about deep operations, you wouldn't conduct it with a helicopter anyway.
Right.
What is on these people's minds? I mean, that much you could have learned from good simulations. I remember talking to a smart aviator who said, well, we can send 2 or 3 aircraft up there, but if we send more than that, it'll light up the air defense and they'll all be shot to pieces. So I said, okay, that sounds good to me. What can we get them to do to light up the air defense so we can destroy it? And we started working on that, but that was not at work. It was simulation. This was the argument that Percival, the general who surrendered Singapore, made after he surrendered. And he talked about, we had learned on exercise not to commit our reserve until the conditions mandated it. Well, he was wedded to all of these peacetime operations. The problem was that Yamashita, Japanese commander, with his small force motoring down Malaysia towards Singapore, didn't play by the rules.
Yeah. Yeah.
They behaved very differently, and he was completely unprepared for anything that he had never seen. I think that's a huge problem in the English-speaking world in our armed forces.